Hey,
Hi.
good morning, Richard.
How are you doing?
Doing good. Thank you for coming in.
Good.
Morning.
Please have a seat.
Thank you very much.
So how have things been going?
Okay. Not great, but okay. The last time I visited you guys, I took your advice and I checked myself into the emergency room. They ran some tests on me, kept me there for a few days, and they gave me some medications and they referred me to a therapist. And I've been seeing her a couple times a week, and I've been feeling a lot better now. So,
Great.
That's fantastic news. Yeah.
so thank you very much for your advice on that. Anyways, so what's going on with my case?
Yeah. So with the ADA case, we have looked over case law, previous cases, and assessed the situation. And it seems that we have a pretty strong argument and likelihood that we could get the landlord to pay for most, if not all, of the repairs as you wanted, as we discussed before. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And by that you mean he is going to be paying for all of it?
We have a strong argument to convince him to pay for most of it.
Well, that's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you in here today to discuss this. We're looking ahead not just to this particular legal issue, but the whole legal process that we've been in right now. You've been coming to see us a couple of times, and I am encouraged by all the case law that we have been able to uncover, and I'm encouraged with what it means for this case. What I don't want, and this is just based off of all of our conversations, I don't want this to keep getting protracted. I definitely think that if we were to take this to trial that we would be successful. But there's always a possibility it might not be. I mean, there's always that opportunity.
You never know.
So that's why we want to suggest that we talk with Mr. Sullivan and his attorneys, because given they have the same information we do. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a quicker resolution on this issue is best for you and the restaurant, it's best for you and your wife, and it's honestly just best all around. It can really help us reduce costs here, and I really do think it can help us reduce risk. Have you ever engaged in a mediation process before?
No, I actually have not. I'm not really familiar with that area. But that being said, though, I do agree with you. I do agree that, I really don't want this to be a protracted matter. I would really like to resolve this issue as quickly as possible. That being said, though, obviously you guys are the expert in law, but based on what Mr. Lund did to me and this whole ADA compliance thing, I really feel like we have a strong case. And I said this before in the last meeting. I really want my day in court. So, I mean, despite all, how much it's going to cost to have a lawsuit and everything, I really do hope that, you guys can kind of explore whatever kind of options in terms of lawsuit there are. But, if you guys think mediation will be a better solution, I'll listen to it too. But as of right now, I'm still kind of stuck on going to trial.
That's one of the best options about this process is you'll be there with us, or at the very least, we'll be there representing your interests.
Okay.
And a mediation does not close the door on a trial.
Mm-hmm.
It gives us an opportunity to quickly resolve this in a manner that's satisfactory to you and your wife, without taking all that time, without taking all that effort, without going through the process, all the filing, all the motions, all the delays of trial. It gives us that. It's basically just an early exit ramp that we can take. But then again, as I said before, if it's not a solution, if we can't get to a solution that you approve, we haven't foreclosed litigation at all. So I do want to make that clear right up front. It's not an either or. And I think one of the reasons why we feel so strongly about this option is because we do believe that what you have here is a solid case. One thing that it may be helpful for us to look at is an overall breakdown of what sort of costs we're projecting, not just with going into litigation, but what we can expect to get as far as resolution from Mr. Sullivan.
Well, I think first we should start with just explain more what mediation is, the differences between that and
please.
litigation, just to make it a little clearer for you. And like Greg said, it's not an end. Even if we come to a conclusion or an agreement at the end of mediation, and say Mr. Sullivan still refuses to abide by that agreement, that gives us grounds again to go for litigation. So there are many options, and in the end, we may end up in litigation. But this is just a step to avoid that as much as possible. So mediation is when the two parties will be there, and we'll have a mediator who will be a neutral third party to basically facilitate a conversation for both parties to come to an agreement and negotiate on how they're going to settle the agreement. So compared to litigation, where we're two sides, we're arguing to the court, and the court makes the decision. In mediation, we are part of the decision-making process, and the third party isn't the one who's making the final decision. So it'll be us coming to an agreement with the landlord instead of having the court say this and kind of out of our control. But here in mediation, we'll have a lot of control over what the discussion is about and how strongly points we want to give and concede. So we have a lot more control, and also it's private and it's a confidential process. So yes, so unlike the court where everything is public record, someone could look up your restaurant and find out that you're in litigation over an ADA claim. It could look bad for you, as well as just your personal issues that may come up in court would be public. But if this happens in mediation, everything is confidential.
Right, and I think I mentioned that to you guys last time, because it is a restaurant that I own.
Right.
Image is really important. So that sense,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and also since we're not really fighting with the other side, we're more trying to come to a conclusion for both of us. It'll maintain a more friendly, workable relationship with your landlord. Whereas in litigation, if you were to sue the landlord, it looks really bad. There may be a lot of animosity, and it could just make things worse.
So,
I was just going to say like that. I know this is something that you've been thinking about a lot, but that last point is important for you and your wife as you consider. I mean, you're about a year in now, a little bit more than a year into your 3-year lease. You do have that option for 3 more. I know you've invested a lot of time and money into it, but I understand that the relationship has been severely compromised. This mediation process may be a way for you to repair that and in some way recover on that investment. It's just one of the things that we've been considering, but I know you have your own considerations, and she just explained a lot. So if you have any questions, please.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Based on what you're telling me about the process, I think it's actually a pretty good method. But my only one concern is, okay, so as far as I understand it, 2 parties, me and Sullivan and all those people, we're going to come together and we're going to arrive at a conclusion that's acceptable for both of us, right? Is that what you guys are getting at?
Yes.
So does that mean that we're going to have to be splitting the cost? I mean, I guess that's what I'm kind of concerned about, because I still feel like, and I'm pretty sure my wife feels about it the same way, I don't feel like we should be responsible for any of the renovation costs. So if it's something that we're meeting in the middle, that means we're going to have to giving something up too. So I just want to know what it is that we're going to have to agree on to make it a fair mediation, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And when it comes to a final determination of what sort of costs we're looking at here, I can't quite say that yet. We haven't exactly flushed out our complete potential litigation strategy, which certainly would inform our mediation strategy, because a lot of it is contingent upon what sort of information we get from you at this meeting. But as I do look at this case, I believe that there's a strong percentage chance that if we went to trial, we would be victorious. We would win. That does, of course, exclude the whole cost of going to trial. So in some ways that gets offset. And it also does include the risk that we don't win. Right now, one of the biggest pieces of leverage that we have over Mr. Sullivan is, again, they have the same information. So in some ways, this mediation is a risk mitigating measure for all of us. Just as confident as you feel about this case, I mean, so do we. And in some ways, you have been very clearly wrong. the issue, the nonsense that's going on with Mr. Lund, I mean, frankly outrageous. Now, the degree to which that directly affects this ADA claim, it certainly affects your relationship. It doesn't necessarily affect the case. So we have this compilation of issues that are here, but they are not necessarily all coming together to make this a 100% case. I just want to make that clear. Case law is not 100%. So one of the reasons why we like this option is that I think our overall cost and exposure is less through mediation.
And also, just to reemphasize, coming to a mutual agreement doesn't necessarily mean we have to split it 50-50. We have lots of leverage we can still argue for having the landlord pay the full cost is what I'm trying to say. We don't have to concede that right away. And we have lots of leverage. Talking about the landlord's refusal to do it in the past. You as a tenant have a lot of leverage, saying that look, you don't have to renew your lease after it's up, and you can speak with other people in the community about the landlord's resistance to this issue. And so we have a lot that we can bring to the table. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to split the cost with the landlord right away. We can still argue our side. So that is not taken away by going to mediation at all.
Right. I feel like he shouldn't have, because you guys saw the demand letter, right? It was the first one by Strap Restaurant.
Right.
They were supposed to have received, so he should have told us. I don't know why he didn't. So
Exactly.
That just really infuriates me.
And that's one of the things that we can use in this mediation.
Yeah.
You have a number of claims. Not just do we feel that we have the good case here with respects to who should bear this cost, but there is that question of your lease, the signing of the lease, and whether or not there was foul play on the part of Mr. Sullivan. Now, that's not nearly as strong a claim because, there are those provisions within the lease, take it as is, you did visit the property. That's not as great a one, but what we can do at a mediation is offer to forego those claims. That can be your bargaining chip. Along with when we engage in this discussion about Mr. Lund, that can be another bargaining chip. You have claims against Mr. Sullivan. How strong they are, they're not as strong as this ADA case,
Right.
but they are claims.
Right.
And agreeing to say, hey, this is nonsense, it needs to stop, but I will forego claims against that if these costs are borne by you. That's an option. So again, like Alyssa said, we are not coming to the table and saying 9,000, or whatever ridiculous sum that Mr. Sullivan is proposing. I think that we have a strong strategy here by simply saying if we forego some of these claims, that he'll bear the cost and you guys can have a productive relationship again. That is what I'm envisioning. It does require a little bit more research on our part. Part of that will be looking at the strength of those other claims. But I think in totality, we can come to a solution where your cost is very, very minimal under whatever solution that we propose.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think it's good that you bring up Mr. Lund. Last time I was here, you guys told me that you guys will be calling Mr. Sullivan about Mr. Lund's behavior. Have you guys had a chance to talk to him about it? Because, like I said, what he really did was very offensive, and I feel like he should apologize. Is that something that you guys...
We personally feel like more than an apology would definitely be necessary in this regard.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that we have not heard a response back on yet. So that doesn't mean nothing has happened. That just means that we haven't heard a response back.
Which that may go in our favor actually if still by the time we reach this mediation we still haven't heard back from the other side. Maybe showing that we are trying to come to an agreement, but perhaps Mr. Lund or Mr. Sullivan are trying to avoid the issue. That could, and then maybe also act as a leverage for us in the mediation as well. But
that's why I really want to go to trial. Even if there's, I'm not going to be awarding any damages for it. Even if it takes for him to apologize to me in front of court, that's why I really want my day in court. I just really can't emphasize that enough. And I really understand that you guys are really, strongly suggesting this mediation brief. So I'll talk to my wife about it, and we'll.
Well, you definitely should.
Yes, definitely.
And one of the things that we'll do as we're preparing for both. I mean, please don't think that we're just focusing on this and not taking your concerns about taking this to trial. Because again, we have to consider that strategy in the case that mediation doesn't go well. But what we can do when you're back there talking with your wife is give you some concrete projections on what we can look at in terms of both an argument for our mediation and as well as cost projections for both, because I think that would be helpful for you and your wife as we start looking at what we're looking at in terms of cost of trial and cost of further litigation.
Sorry,
sorry,
no.
Okay, well, I mean, I just want to ask you right now because Mr. Swanson brought up the cost issue. Do you guys have a ballpark estimate? I know you guys have to calculate down to it as it gets closer to the process, but just so that I can get a general idea to talk about it over my life.
You know that I would be very reticent to give one right now, if only because how fluid these things can be.
Mm-hmm.
I could give you. I think we can take a look at some of the other cases
Yeah.
and maybe give an estimate of how some of these things have gone in the past. But the last thing that we would want to do is misrepresent what this litigation could look like. And so, I mean, spitballing here is not productive. Certainly more, I can say that if we go to a mediation and we do get a successful resolution, it's just filing the paperwork with the court after that. And so it's arguably significantly less. But I will work with Alyssa to get something that we can arrange. But the last thing I want to do is misrepresent this to you.
Right. We can get back to you on that.
Yeah, please email me.
Yeah, definitely.
And sorry, what were you going to say?
The one thing I was going to say is, wanting Mr. Lund to apologize. So I'm just listening to your concerns that you don't want to split the costs, and also you want an apology or you want to acknowledge that a wrong was done to you. Correct. So I mean, in litigation, really the focus isn't necessarily to have an apology given, and I think that's something that maybe in mediation may be a more effective way to get what you're really looking for there, because litigation is more. There's going to be arguments about the damages and the cost. It's a lot more oriented on those type of solutions. But in mediation, we can voice our concern and look, our client was wrong, like you were wronged, and we want that to be acknowledged. And that's something that in mediation I think we can address a little bit more effectively to get really what you want out of the situation. Because in litigation we're going to be focusing a lot on the dollar amounts, but in mediation, like I said, we control the discussion. And so if that's something you really want, I think we can push for it a lot more in mediation. And also just keep in mind, I know we've said this so many times, but this is not the closed door. So in mediation, after we hear the other side, and we're really not able to come to an agreement, we can still go into litigation after that. And it'll just help us because we'll know the other side a lot better. And we don't have to come to an agreement in mediation, but it's just helpful for us to try. I know it's more cost effective, and also the ADA issue kind of need a fast reaction to that, especially with Mr. Smith, who wrote the letter, also watching us. So we just need to take a more efficient move towards this.
I think that's a good point, because I think Mr. Smith has proven in his previous communications, in his letters, that he basically just wants to see this resolved. Mm-hmm. And I think taking these progressive and visible steps, and to whatever degree you and your wife are comfortable, we can keep them marginally informed of the progress of this case, just so that he's aware that we are moving forward with it. Because again, what we don't want to do, whether in trial or mediation, is expose you guys to any sort of negative publicity, negative social. And I get the strong sense that Mr. Smith just wants to see this resolved, and I think this is a good step to take to show him that we are taking this very seriously, because I know you take it very seriously, and this is good evidence of that, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want you to know, you guys do know that we have a deadline to get back to Mr. Smith's lawyer. I think her name was Do-Gooder.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I know that's coming up somewhere in March. Do you think, will there be any problem meeting the deadline or giving an answer? We have to come up with something.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why, like Greg was saying, we can contact Mr. Smith's lawyers and just say that we are in the process of trying to resolve this. So, and explain where we are right now. About may enter mediation if that's what you choose, and just let them know that we are taking steps to address it. even if we don't have the total repairs done by that deadline, as long as we're open with communication with Mr. Smith, I feel like they'll be accommodating to us.
I think they will.
The fact that we are taking these affirmative, deliberate steps, I believe, is a good sign. And based on those past communications, I believe that they're definitely individuals that we can work with. Mr. Smith is in many ways in a situation similar to yours. I mean, I think explaining the situation to him, if it comes to that, would be productive. I don't think we have to go through that all just yet, but we can have, I think, a good conversation with Ms. Do-Gooder about where we're at.
I think so too. So I think that resolves your concern with that. Do you have any other questions for us around mediation or your options or?
No, I mean, I guess so. Okay, so in the event that we do decide to go with the mediation route, what will be like our next immediate step? And what should I be doing, or is there anything that?
And as you go back and talk to your wife, we've got some good points here. What it is you're looking for, definitively. In some cases, bottom lines. They will be throwing out proposals, and again, whether or not you decide to come to mediation is entirely your decision, entirely your wife's decision. But
suggest that we think it would be a better idea for me to go.
It's a little bit dependent. I think we can have some more. We'll invariably be having more communications with Mr. Sullivan and his attorney. I wouldn't want to put us in like a very stressful situation.
Right.
In some ways, I think that we might have a little bit greater freedom to negotiate. And of course, because this is all your final say, that's one thing that we'll make clear up front, is that any terms, any proposals that we discuss in there require you and your wife's final approval.
Right.
So just because you're not in there at the time doesn't mean that you're not getting the decision that you want.
And our primary concern is your needs. So, I mean, you're like you just shared with us earlier, health concerns, if it'll be really stressful for you to be in that situation, or we could just have you outside. And like I said, we can conference with you anytime we need to make an agreement, and we won't make any agreements with the landlord without your approval. So just to know that. But it's honestly up to you. It could be helpful because you could voice some things that we may not be able to in the right ways or more effective ways, and also to get what you wanted out of the situation. It may be helpful for you to be there, but again, it's up to you.
I do like that idea of having you there within reach, if that's something that we can accommodate.
Yeah.
But to your original question, what I would encourage you and your wife to do is to just consider those strong bottom lines. And I know some of that will be informed by some of the cost figures that Alyssa and I give you, as far as just what we're looking at in terms of our total options.
Right.
But clarity on what it is we want with respect to Lund. Is an apology enough from Lund, from Mr. Sullivan? Are we going to argue for termination? Just making sure that we have a clear picture on what it is that you want, you desire. I already know we are certainly looking at $0 in cost of repairs, but maybe if we come back with different figures on the trial, there may be some room for flexibility there. Just considering those options as you discuss this with your wife and as you get more information, and we'll make sure that we have a feedback loop there on information so that we can build our strategy a little bit more clearly.
Maybe if you could give us, you and your wife could sit down and give us, we know that the best scenario for you would be to pay nothing and have Mr. Lund apologize. So if you could just give us perhaps the most, if the most you would be willing to pay in terms of the repairs as your bottom worst possible outcome, and then one in the middle that you may be negotiable with, but obviously would prefer the $0 one over it. But if you could just highlight those three areas for us to give us a better idea of where you and your wife are in terms of the cost.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll actually definitely do that, and I'll get back to you guys on that.
Okay.
And in terms of the mediation, if it does happen, I'm willing to listen, see what he has to say.
Okay.
But and I hate to sound like a broken record, but if we do go to trial, that's what I would really prefer at the end. But
Okay.
no, thank you very much.
Well, thank you again for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So he wants to go to trial.
Yeah.